A major issue involving Barcelona and Atlético Madrid is dividing many opinions among CULÉS fans at this moment and attracting the attention of the Spanish press, because by all indications, there is indeed a negotiation that could involve Barcelona and Atlético Madrid in an extremely relevant exchange, so I'm going to tell you in detail everything that's happening. So stay with me until the end of the video to understand everything, and at the end of the video I want you to give me your opinion on the matter here in the comments. Well, as we've already commented here on the channel in previous videos, Barcelona formally communicated both to the fans and to Lewandowski himself that the club will not renew the Polish striker's contract, making this season his last wearing the Blaugrana shirt, which means that the club is already working intensively behind the scenes to define who will be the team's new number 9 starting next season, seeking a profile that fits not only in the technical and tactical aspect, but also within the financial limitations that still prevent Barca from making absurd investments without well-defined strategic planning that respects the financial fair play rules. With this in mind, it became clear that Barcelona is already sounding out names in the market and analyzing high-level options, and in recent days one name has gained even more strength and internal support: Julian Alvarez, the Argentine striker who, despite being extremely talented, has not been living his best moment at Atlético Madrid and, according to sources close to the player, is not totally happy at the club, which makes him open to negotiations that could place him in an environment where he receives more prominence and can develop football more aligned with his offensive characteristics, especially because at Atlético he has faced difficulties in becoming an absolute starter and often ends up being used in functions that don't fully explore his explosive potential, making it clear that his style of play needs a different tactical system to shine with full intensity. Now, the most interesting point of the entire conversation is that the Spanish press disclosed an explosive possibility: Barcelona could make a direct exchange with Atlético Madrid, sending Lewandowski to the Colchonero club and receiving Julian Alvarez in return, and since Alvarez is a much younger player, with evolution potential and a higher market value, Barcelona would probably have to include an additional financial amount to balance the negotiation, something that has already begun to be discussed and that completely divides the fans' opinions. Because while some see in this exchange a unique opportunity to rejuvenate the attack, others believe that giving up Lewandowski may still be too hasty, mainly considering his experience and leadership within the locker room. Atlético Madrid's interest in Lewandowski is not news, because the club knows that Barca will not renew his contract and sees in the Polish striker a name with experience, international weight, scoring ability and immediate impact, something that Simeone values tremendously, since Atlético is in search of a striker capable of delivering quick results without needing a long adaptation, mainly because the team has been suffering from lack of effectiveness in attack and urgently needs a center forward who solves games in decisive moments, a characteristic that Lewandowski possesses in abundance even at 36 years of age, showing that he still has the stamina and quality to compete at the highest level of European football. On the other hand, Julian Alvarez appears to Barcelona as the ideal and practically perfect option to replace Lewandowski, not only because he's young, but because his style of play fits very naturally into Barcelona's tactics, in addition to already being adapted to Spanish football, knowing the league's opponents and having characteristics such as mobility, intensity, speed, versatility, and the ability to press the ball out, something that Flick values greatly in the offensive system, and which has become fundamental for the functioning of the tactical scheme that the German has been implementing since he took over the technical command of the Catalan team, completely transforming the way the team behaves on the field. The rumors gained even more strength after the last match between Barcelona and Atlético Madrid, especially because Lewandowski missed a decisive penalty, reinforcing the idea that Barcelona really needs a new striker for next season, while Atlético came out defeated and made it clear to Julian Alvarez that the current environment may not be ideal for him to grow and reach an even higher level in his career, which makes the exchange not only possible, but even logical for both sides, creating a situation where everyone can come out winning if the negotiation is conducted in an intelligent and strategic manner. When we analyze the numbers from the current season, it becomes even more evident how much sense this exchange makes for both clubs, because Lewandowski, despite his advanced age, continues to deliver absolutely impressive numbers for Barcelona, with 16 goals scored and 2 assists in 21 matches played this season, maintaining an average of approximately 1 goal every 112 minutes on the field, which demonstrates that his efficiency inside the box continues to be exceptional and that he still possesses that killer instinct that few strikers in the world manage to maintain over so many years at the highest level, but at the same time it's impossible to ignore that his ability to press, his speed in counterattacks and his dynamic movement are no longer the same as years ago, limiting somewhat the style of play that Hansi Flick so much desires to implement with high pressure and quick transitions. As for Julian Alvarez, on the other hand, he has quite different numbers this season at Atlético Madrid, with only 6 goals scored and 1 assist in 23 matches played, which at first glance may seem disappointing when compared directly with Lewandowski, but it's fundamental to understand the context in which the Argentine is inserted, because in Diego Simeone's ultra-defensive system, Alvarez doesn't receive the same volume of clear goal opportunities that Lewandowski receives at Barcelona, in addition to frequently being used in more withdrawn positions or on the sides of the attack, acting almost as a second striker or even as an attacking midfielder at certain moments, which drastically limits his finishing capacity and makes his numbers not truly reflect his real potential, especially when we remember that in his previous seasons at Manchester City he demonstrated being capable of scoring very frequently when placed in the pure centre-forward function. Lewandowski's importance for Barcelona in the current season is undeniable and goes far beyond the numbers of goals and assists, because the pole functions as a constant reference in attack, a support point for his teammates, a finisher who solves complicated games and an experienced leader who transmits confidence to the younger players. But at the same time everyone knows that at 36 years of age completed and walking toward 37 in the middle of next season, it's practically impossible to expect him to maintain this level of performance for much longer, which makes urgent the need to plan his replacement before his performance drops abruptly. Julian Alvarez, even with inferior numbers this season, represents for Atlético Madrid a fundamental piece of tactical versatility and a very expensive investment that was made a few months ago thinking about the long term, but the reality is that the Argentine hasn't managed to establish himself as an absolute starter and frequently shares space with other strikers, which generates frustration both in the player and in the fans who expected to see him as the team's main protagonist. In this delicate situation can facilitate an eventual negotiation if Atlético receives an interesting proposal involving an experienced name like Lewandowski. Thinking specifically about the year 2026, which will be decisive for both clubs with the dispute of national championships, European competitions, and the World Cup happening in the middle of the year, it becomes evident that Julian Alvarez is much more worthwhile for any long-term project, because at 24 years of age he will have ahead of him at least 8 to 10 more years of career at the highest level, while Lewandowski will be approaching 38 years and probably entering the final phase of his trajectory as a professional player, which naturally limits his market value and especially his physical durability to withstand the extremely exhausting European calendar. Furthermore, Julian Alvarez's profile fits perfectly into modern football trends that increasingly value mobile, versatile strikers capable of acting in multiple positions, pressing without the ball and actively participating in the construction of plays from midfield, while Lewandowski, despite his tactical intelligence and lethal efficiency inside the box, represents a more classic style of fixed center forward who depends on the service of his teammates, which can become an increasingly greater limitation as Barcelona seeks to implement more dynamic and intense football under Hansi Flick's command. Faced with all this, the big question I leave for you, CULÉS fan who follows every detail of the club: would you approve this exchange? Do you think it's worth sending Lewandowski to Atlético and bringing Julian Alvarez to Barcelona? Do you believe Barcelona would gain from this, or do you think Barca should follow another path, seek another name, or even keep Lewandowski longer? Tell me here in the comments, because I really want to know your opinion, and also because this exchange, if it really happens, could be one of the most impactful moves in recent years in Spanish football and in Barcelona's future, potentially completely redefining the team's offensive identity and establishing the foundations for the next victorious cycles that the CULÉS fans so much hope for and deserve after difficult years facing financial crises and disappointing results.